Desante Sana Warden. Here in Harambe, we like to say Twinde, which means let's go. Jumbo everyone! Hello, my name is Shannon. I'm going to be your safari guide out here on Kilimanjaro Safaris today. Just a little reminder that face coverings are going to be required along the journey here. And I do ask that everyone remain seated at all times with your hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the vehicle at all times. We're going to go through a lot of rough brush. There tend to be bushes near some pretty long thorns. If you perhaps have any children sitting on your lap, perfectly a-okay, probably the best place for them so they can see animals a bit easier at times. I just ask that they do remain seated on your lap for the entire duration of our explorations through the reserve. I'd much rather not see them lifted into the air or standing on top of your lap. And if you have any loose objects you hold near and dear to your heart, certainly keep a tight hold on them. If they fly overboard, I cannot stop to pick them up for you. I will notify the warden something's been dropped. You'll certainly get it back at a later time. It just most likely won't be returned to you in the same fashion you left it in. So that being said, as we head on in, our first stop will be Little Aturi Forest. A lot of the animals out this way can be very well hidden at times. But it looks like we're going to see a lot of activity out here today. So look off to your right, you'll see an okapi wandering around. They have horizontal stripes across their legs to mimic the streaming of light through a tree canopy so they can disappear into the bushes really easily. Off to our left, we're seeing some sandy-colored antelope, which are greater kudu. Second tallest antelope on the reserve. They get about 5 feet tall at the shoulder. It seems to be the two we're seeing are females. The males of their species will normally develop horns. Around 6 feet long. Relative of theirs is hanging out within here as well. The copper-colored antelope you're going to see. Bongos, currently crossing the road, of course. Bongos, believe it or not, can sometimes be referred to as the ghost of the forest. The earth tones certainly help them blend in. They also have those stripes to break up their silhouette. They also have those horns that lean backwards and spirals so they can travel through really dense plant life and not have to slow down whatsoever. Just one last glimpse of that okapi there in the distance too. Only living relative of the giraffe. They do have really similar skull and skeletal structure. They're just a little bit smaller. Some birds up the hill on our right here as well, which are saddle-billed storks. Named after that saddle-shaped shield on top of their bill. They are about 5 feet tall and have a wingspan of around 9 feet wide. About the width of the canopy above our head on this truck. And they do mate for life, so perhaps those two are a mated pair. So a lot of activity already through the forest here. Could be because the watering hole we just passed is pretty reliable. Up ahead to our left there is a black rhinoceros resting by a mud wall as well. Way up ahead of us on top of the hill here. Kind of looks like a rock as they're resting there. Black rhinos are about 3,000 pounds and considered crepuscular, which simply means the peak of their activity normally will be at sunrise and sunset, the cooler parts of the day, so who can blame them? We are going to wander a bit further through the forest. Eventually we'll arrive at a river called Safi River, which is home to several water-dwelling animals. We are going to get really lucky since it's a bit cooler out today. Coming up on our right are 2 Nile hippopotamus resting on shore. A few in the water to our left by that island as well. So, hippos are nocturnal. They're way more active at night. So much so that they sometimes travel up to 5 miles away from their favorite watering hole looking for food at night. Doing a lot of grazing during that time usually. A group of them overall will be called a boat. Notice the ones in the water, they're resting in a more shallow area. That is because they are not buoyant, meaning they don't float. So it's a bit easier for them to rest in those areas. Also are oftentimes seen walking and trotting along the bottom of the river to travel, kind of why they're called the hippopotamus. The name translated to English means the river horse. Down below to our left, several resting here on shore. Try to stay seated for me though, please. Thank you so much. So they are certainly very, very cute animals, but they're also super territorial. You definitely want to admire them from afar, give them a respectful distance. They can outrun humans on land, running around 35 miles per hour. And down below to our left, seeing some Nile crocodiles here. They get about 16 feet long, weigh around 500 pounds. So they are the largest of the crocodilian species. A group on shore will be called a basque, since they're basking in the sun together, while a group in the water would be called a float, since they'd be floating around together. Very awesome animals. They do have the ability of holding them for up to 2 hours when they lie dormant. Normally they will have a bite pressure of around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds per square inch. Alright, up ahead of us here, the tree canopy will begin opening up as we head on out of the forest. Begin making our way towards the savannah. Going to be a lot of different plants and animals, I have to say. A lot of them you'll probably recognize. Quite a few popular animals live here. Really interesting tree coming up on our right as well. You will probably seen a few of them already today, but it is a baobab tree. Frequently called the upside down tree since those branches look so similar to roots. And they will remain leafless about 9 months out of the year. That will help the tree to retain water. Very important on the savanna since ecosystems like this experience a lot of drought. Crossing the road ahead of us here, we're going to see some Patterson eland. Largest antelope on the reserve. We're going to see one to our left, one to our right. They get about 6 feet tall at shoulder and weigh about 2,000 pounds, so the weight of a decent-sized giraffe, really. And they can leap 8 feet into the air from a standing position, which is almost shoulder height with us. Very beautiful antelope with those spiral corkscrew horns, which can indicate their age at times, too.
You see it?
Slowly begin to spiral as they age. Further on we go, we are going to see a giraffe here. Definitely the tallest of all land animals. They can get up to 20 feet tall. Notice this giraffe has some pretty jagged, irregular patches. It's an indication it is a Maasai giraffe. They're normally found in eastern parts of Africa. Some zebras ahead of us here as well. Hartmann's mountain zebras. They're identified by their dewlap, the extra layer of skin that hangs down from their neck. Their stripes are definitely as unique as a human's fingerprint. They can run about 45 miles per hour and have a kick strong enough to break bone. So they can defend themselves pretty well. A group of them will be called a dazzle. Now, off to our left in this small den here are several African painted dogs resting. Called painted dogs because of their beautiful calico coats. And they are the most successful pack hunter in Africa. So they're more successful at hunting than the lion, cheetah, or hyena because their endurance helps wear out their prey. They can run 40 miles per hour for up to 3.5 miles without slowing down. Off to our left are some sable antelope way out in the distance with really cool horns built for self-defense. They can knock predators off their back. Very important for them since they tend to stand their ground against predators. Several more Hartmann's mountain zebras here too. Usually their dazzles do consist of about 4 to 5 adults and their babies. Some wildebeest with them here. Wildebeest are also called gnu, spelled G-N-U, after a vocalization they make. So you'll see several here to our left and right. I think this one wants to cross the road, so we're going to hang out here for a second. Really awesome animals. They are always traveling. So one really nice adaptation they have, they can go about 5 days without drinking water. They are the cause of the biggest migration in the world, so around 1.5 million of them will join together each year to walk across the savannah for about 1,000 miles. We're going to head on forward to meet up with these giraffes in the distance since it looks like there's a little baby. A group of them, very fittingly, will be called a tower of giraffes. Seeing a bit more of a visual of those at Patterson Zealand on the right too as they hang out outside the bushes a bit there. So it looks like the baby is pretty interested in the springbuck hanging out nearby. Now that baby giraffe probably stayed in mom's belly around 14 months before they were born. And then they would have been born around 6 feet tall. So probably wherever you're resting your elbow here on the vehicle, that's almost 6 feet up from the ground. And mom would have given birth standing up. So they normally experience about a 6-foot drop to the ground when they're born. Which I know sounds really rough, but believe it or not, a little bit safer and healthier for the baby that way. And since we are seeing 2 babies here, they probably each have their own individual mom. It's very rare for a female to have more than one baby at a time. Those false horns on top of their head are called ossicones, made of ossified cartilage, same hard material found in your nose. Babies' ossicones do lay flat on their head when they're initially born. Makes the birthing process for mom a bit easier that way. And then they'll ossify or become more bone-like over the span of a few weeks. Stand up on end. So my Colby cattle here too. Their horns are about 6 feet long usually. Not too heavy though, slightly hollow inside. With a honeycomb infrastructure, kind of like a beehive, and a lot of blood vessels. So on super hot days, their blood will pump all the way to the top of their horns to cool them off. They're one of the few domesticated animals you'll find here on the reserve, raised and taken care of by humans. Another giraffe there on the left. Well, pretty active animals. They're a browsing species, so they're going to look for food and eat food around 20 hours a day. Alright, let's head on over to a bit of a different portion of the savannah here called Timbo country. Timbo is Swahili for elephant. So I'm hoping maybe we find an African elephant around here. There's a watering hole up ahead that they're very partial to. Just slightly to our right, so really close to us here. Rubbing up against a tree.
He's scratching.
Largest animal on land in the entire world. They're about 13,000 pounds.
Can you see it? Harrigan, can you see it?
This one seems to be hanging out along with the female. They're usually a bit more solitary than the females. And there are some monkeys here to our left, mandrills. Largest monkeys in Africa. They're all hanging out by this termite mound.
Right there.
They get up to 100 pounds. They are terrestrial. They do travel along the ground, but they're also arboreal. Sometimes you'll see them travel amongst the trees. Pretty nice to see them on a bit of a cooler day like this. They can be pretty hard to find when it's so cold out. Let's see. We're going to travel a bit further through elephant country. If that elephant's hanging out alone, I'm actually hoping, since elephants are pretty social, he's not straying too far away from maybe some other bachelors in the area or a larger herd. So we're gonna make our way over towards a really popular watering hole, see if anyone's out there. We just have to take a little bit of a deep look here. Signs of elephants. There's tusk marks in the clay here to our left and right. Usually they eat a lot of red clay because it'll give them iron they need in their diet. They'll eat other soil or mineral deposits depending on what they need, but it looks like there might be someone here to the left, so we'll get a little bit closer. So normally a herd will range around 2 to 20 elephants at a time nowadays. There's actually a little baby in this herd up ahead here by the water, so I'm hoping we can head on over to the water and get a better view of them. Hang on tight for a second. I think this is the herd that's normally in this area, so this baby's going to be about 4 years old. Hopefully they decide to hang out there for a second. And there we are, a bit too green. So those tusks they have start growing when they're about 2. And that trunk is really hard to use at first. It has more muscles in it than the human body, so it takes a baby elephant about a year to perfect the use. Kind of like a human child learning how to walk. They would have stayed in mom's belly around 22 months before they were born. So, almost 2 years. And then mom would have been gifted with about a 300-pound baby.
Oh boy.
They're really working at that branch. They'll eventually get a bite-sized piece. That's why the trunk is so useful. Those two ends are prehensile, like fingers too. It's a bit easier. They do have a really long childhood as well. They actually have the second longest childhood of any mammal, second only to us, the human. So this baby is going to be very dependent on mom and the rest of the herd for around 13 to 15 years. So these greater flamingos here as well. Definitely the tallest of the flamingos. They're around really 5 feet tall. They can get up to 6 feet tall at times. Also the lightest pink of the flamingos, a bit more of a pastel coloration to a lot of their feathers that they get from eating brine shrimp. That's how they get that prominent color. So a very nice view of both them and the elephants before we kind of head away from elephant country. And make our way over to bush country. So plant life out this way is a bit more crowded at times and just less tame, with fewer elephants and giraffes wandering through to clear the brushes often. But I am hoping that's going to be to the advantage of other animals that want to take shelter within the plant life a bit more. Let's see. Yeah, off to our left are some scimitar horned oryx. They live really well on arid environments like the desert. Their heads are very large and well splayed, so they can walk along the sand without sinking in. Oh, down this path to our right, a white rhino. So white rhinos are about 5,000 pounds, skin's about 2 inches thick. To protect themselves, most rhinos can charge around 35 miles per hour. I will say in the 3 years I've lived here, I've never personally seen a rhino charge, but they love to gallop, so all 4 of their feet can come off the ground at once. Which is pretty cool since they're 2.5 tons. Just one last view of the scimitar horned oryx here as well. Since they live usually on a desert, one really awesome adaptation they have, they can go 9 months without drinking water if they really need to. Now they'll still have water during that time, it'll just come from the plants, so it's smaller quantities of water. And they won't start sweating until their internal body temperature is around 115 degrees Fahrenheit to help out with that too. Now on top of the hill off to our left here, just to the left of that fallen tree, is a cheetah in the sun, laying down. Cheetahs are definitely the fastest animals on land in the entire world. They can run about 60 to 65 miles per hour. It's been recorded they can run 0 to 60 within 3 seconds. Now they are certainly a sprinter, not a marathon runner. They're also a daytime hunter. So it's really important for them to have spots to blend in broad daylight as much as possible. That's also why they have black tear tracks run down their face that can help prevent quite a bit of sun glare. Alright, we are headed on over to the Kofi rocks now. These rocks occasionally attract lions. They like to get on top to survey the land. Now, unlike the cheetah, lions are more active at night, so it might be difficult to find them, but we'll try our best. Sometimes they like the other side of the rocks here. Yeah, so there's a lioness off to our left resting. There's some white rhinos off to our right. We will get another view of them a little later, so not to worry. Let's see this lioness. It looks like someone might be behind her there too, closer to the tree. Oh, and a male beyond that. So lions are more active at night usually because their eyesight will be 6 times more powerful than a human's once it's dark out. Makes it a bit easier for them to hunt then. They're super strong animals. They can leap up to 20 feet in the air, which is higher than the average giraffe. We're at about 45 miles per hour. Now, those are very short bursts of strength they have, which is why they like to use the element of surprise while hunting pretty often. We are going to round the corner here. Just beyond the bushes, by entrance of a tunnel, you're seeing some warthogs right on top of that entrance. Oh, look at them. So warthogs are the largest burrowing mammal in Africa. They do build these tunnels underneath them with their snouts and hooves. Or sometimes take up residency in abandoned burrows made by other animals like the aardvark. A group of them will be called a sounder. Now look down below to our left here. We're going to get towards a nice warm patch of sand and an ostrich is resting within it. So this is a female ostrich. They'll have gray feathers. The males have black and white feathers. Pretty big, about 7 to 9 feet tall. Good young. Let's see, off to the right, those white rhinos are still hanging out here. You'll also see some ostrich eggs nearby. Could be hers, could be several others. They're communal layers, so they will lay their eggs in one big nest together. But for white rhinos, they're named after the Afrikaans word vite. Vite means wide. Since they have such a wide, flat mouth, that helps them graze along the ground, eat as much grass as possible. Pretty useful living on a savanna like that. They are southern white rhinos. That's why we're seeing a few of them there together. There are around 20,000 southern white rhinos left in the world. So pretty good number for a subspecies of rhino. Not a very good number for an animal species as a whole though. They are considered threatened. We certainly have to keep a close eye on them and try to protect them as much as possible. Alright. Well, it looks like we are getting pretty close to the outskirts of the village here. And I do see some movement by this workshop. We're going to see some Nigerian dwarf goats here today. Someone's even hanging out by this vehicle. Off to the left. So they are full grown. Nigerian dwarf goats. Of course, the other animal you occasionally find near the reserve here, being a bit of a smaller livestock animal, they of course take up less room and need less food. It's going to be much easier for them to live in harmony amongst the wildlife here and not compete over food along the way, which is certainly something we try to keep in mind when trying to live together with the animals. That's actually why Harambe, the village, was established. Harambe means coming together and working together in unison with these animals so that we can all profit together and learning about them, and they can stay nice and safe in their homes. Alright everyone, it looks like our journey here on Harambe Wildlife Reserve is coming pretty close to a close. We're going to start making our way back towards Harambe Village. So I would like to say thank you, and the Swahili phrase for thank you is Asante Sana. So Asante Sana everyone for joining me out here today. If you ever get the chance, definitely come visit us again sometime. No two safaris are ever like. Animals will certainly make sure of that. You never know where they're going to be, what they're going to be up to. And if we have any wilderness explorers on board, the name of this truck is Simba 1. S-I-M-B-A. The number 1 will be your code to get your badge, located near the entrance of safaris back in the village. And we are getting pretty close to the village here now. However, I am going to be dropping you off where I picked you up. So we are going to pass these docks just up ahead of us here to end our journey where we began. Now we are probably going to meet a bit of traffic here along the way. It is the time of day where we begin cleaning all the vehicles here. So the cast members up ahead, they're going to try to work as diligently as possible to keep those trucks sanitized and safe for everyone on board. So we'll just have to wait until one of the ways up ahead kind of clears out so we can move on along. During that time, if you will want to, definitely double check your rows and make sure you have all your valuables. It is a very bumpy ride, so sometimes things fall out of pockets. Might have to travel back to Harambe if something's forgotten. So make sure you have the cell phones, wallets, car keys, magic bands, car tickets. Things that are not very fun to leave behind.